Hey there guys, Lite Legionario here, bringing you the next 2v2 that me and the Swedish Landsknecht did together. At this time, I will command the Arverni, and he will command Parthia, and our opponents are the same Egyptian player from the prior game, and he has a new ally who will be using the Seleucid army. So, I'll start with my forces. In the front I have 4 units of Celtic skirmishers. I just brought these for the pikes. I figure we agreed, and Parthians are far better skirmishing faction than the Gauls, or the Arverni rather. Habit of calling them the Gauls, the Arverni. They're not very good skirmishers, but the Celtic skirmishers are reasonably decent enough, and I'm going to use them to help me with pikes. Then I have 6 units of Oathsworn. I don't always like to bring a huge horde of these guys, but realistically, fighting the Seleucids and Egypt and not bringing the best infantry as the Arverni is just stupid, and unless you're really challenging yourself, and I'm not that good at this game yet to be able to do so, so I kind of had to bring them. I brought a unit of Spear Warriors to kind of block a flank here, which is what I'm going to do with them. And then I had, it was 2 Noble Horse and 3 Heavy Horse, which are very good, which are all good melee cavalry, particularly the Noble Horse, and they'll come in handy in this fight. The Swedish Landsknecht's force consists of 4 units of Eastern Slingers up front, 4 mercenary hoplites, and he's got 2 Parthian swordsmen. I probably wouldn't have brought this much infantry if I were myself, but he might have been trying to do something special or interesting rather than the traditional army. He's got 5 Royal Cataphracts, 1 Royal Cataphract and 4 Eastern Cataphracts. And he's got 4 Parthian horse archers, and I think that's all he had. Yeah, I probably would have brought it so I could have got some other stuff as well, but maybe he's going to just use his hoplites with their reasonably okay defense to hold up some guys and then get some flank damage with his cavalry. Now, this fight was interesting in that it had the use of brimstone pits, and over the side it had the use of, what are these ones? I can't remember what those ones are called. Traps, basically. And for some reason, I don't know how they were enabled, because every time I've tried to actually even think about using traps, it's blocked. I can't even use it. So I don't recall unlocking it or anything, so I'm not really sure how that happened. But nonetheless, they force us to, this is quite clever because we cannot just run over this or this to get around them. However, they haven't used them optimally, because basically there's still areas in which we can get around them. If you put them right up against the border and force everyone, and then force only one flank, you could guard one flank and deny another. However, I was also considering if we could use the horse archers of Swedish Landsknecht to light these on fire, perhaps, and destroy them before they could use them, or even use them against the enemy. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's start with the Egyptian army. He has 2 Theros spears out here, and I believe it was 3 light cav. The African war elephant is general. Very similar armies, so I knew he'd do this. It becomes very predictable because people repeat their armies quite often, which just means you can counter them. So he has a few Nubian bowmen, and then again he's just got the core of thorax pikemen. I think it's 5 of them again, or 4 of them, and then again the 4 Galatian royal guards. So his army is very, very similar. Now, the Seleucid player, he has 3 silver shield pikemen up front, and then 4 royal pelters in the back, and then an enormous skirmishing contingent. And to be honest, this army, both of these guys have not brought particularly good counter to Parthia in this fight. The Egyptian player is reasonably well set up for me. But with the support of Parthia, the Arverni and Parthia together is a very good combination. They've brought an enormous, the Seleucid player has brought an enormous missile contingent. I think it's like 6-7 javelin, and then about 5 Syrian heavy archers. Now the heavy archers are just not worth having. They're a cool unit and they should be good, but archers are just no match for slingers in this game at this stage. They're not bad. I think since the 1.6 patch they're a little better than they were in the 1.5. But they're still not worth it compared to slingers. So the Seleucid players brought an enormous missile contingent, which isn't a bad idea. However, he would have been wiser to have brought slingers and maybe some camel archers or something like that to help. because they've got a very large army, a lot of missiles, and some very good infantry in there. But what they don't have is many cavalry, so it's an area where we have a distinct advantage. And you don't want to let Parthia have a humongous cavalry advantage over you. Obviously, Parthia is going to have better cavalry than most every faction around. But what it is going to do is not going to, if you don't have enough to counter it and relying on infantry, which is not necessarily a bad idea, but it means the Parthian player will be able to run circles around you, which is not what you want. And these own little traps of theirs are going to actually probably work against them here. So anyway, what we decide to do is just focus on one side, try and get these elephants and rip up these cavalry, get rid of the enemy cavalry. That gives us complete mobility control of the field through mobility, which is a very good idea. We basically want to take the cavalry out of the equation before we do everything else, because we need to be able to outflank them, because these infantry units are going to be impossible to beat from the front, these pikes, and the Galatian Royal Guard is going to be too difficult to outflank and beat in the flank, because at least they are a match for my Oathsworn. And of course all these infantry units that the Sneak has brought are not very good infantry, being that Parthia does not actually possess a strong infantry corps. So the Egyptian player manages to run over all these own traps, so I don't know if we've realised, I'm not sure, were these like the spike pits or something, I think. What a pretty bloody brutal though. But needless to say, they run to their own traps. So, they're not a bad idea, but the thing is I suspect, now I don't have much experience with these traps yet, so I'm not going to classify them yet. I'm sure there's some very clever and intelligent uses for them yet. But I think for the standard player, they're probably going to, if someone brings traps, they're going to play a pretty static kind of game and rely on the traps and try and defend them and make you have to use them. So all you need to really do, in my opinion, if they do that, is just, amass your numbers somewhere else, and they'll have to reshape their line, and their own traps can be ignored. So stuff, not necessarily so, but that's probably quite likely to be a pretty good example of that happening. And to be honest, I think, a lot of players, it's kind of like when they hill camp, or like in Medieval 2, you could bring like the Curatio standards and the Crate Crosses and stuff, which were good to have in your army, but a lot of players, in my opinion, got stuck up on guarding them, and they completely gave up all mobility and split their army up and holding positions and stuff to look after them. And I think something similar could be the case for these dudes, for these traps and stuff. So, that kind of thing gives you the mobility of the field, if you will. So, which is what is going to happen in this fight. It's going to allow me and the Swedish Landsneak to dictate the fight's pattern, the battle. We're going to dictate where the fight's going to happen and how they're going to react to us. So you manage to catch this light cav, and it's going to get destroyed by this heavy horse and their slings. Basically what's going to happen, we can concentrate our forces, and they don't not have much in the way of cavalry, so they can't really stop us doing it. And when that happens, what will likely happen is they'll break up parts of their army to try and deal with it, where you can bring in other sections into the broken areas. So that is why, I don't like playing defensively on a battlefield, to be honest, because I think that, don't get me wrong here, you can play defensively and be very effective defensively, but I think, unless it's a very good player, which I've run to very good players who play defensively, but in the Total War games, particularly in Total War games, most of the players who play defensively make one big mistake. A couple of big mistakes actually. They give up the battlefield. By that way I mean you're allowed to use the battlefield and have all the terrain to your advantage. They usually think, right, I'll have this terrain because it's a good hill or something, but then they completely let you have the rest, and you can be pretty creative and use the rest however you want, and you can force their army to face you on your terms, and then you can usually slip around the other side and take the hill away from them or something. It's quite, a lot of players, unless they're really experienced defensive players who don't know how to basically stop you from doing this, but a lot of players in Total War games do this, and I've seen a lot of people do it, and So here they're in their phalanx, and they're just sitting here. So this, this denotes the fact that they want us to just come straight at them, and this is not going to happen. Neither myself or the Swedish Larnsnecht are silly enough or inexperienced enough to do this. This is pointless. There's no point in us doing it. Now, they did manage to destroy the Swedish Larnsnecht's horse archers. He probably would have been best to have just used Cantabrian Circle here. But there's a lot of missile units here, so this many is very effective. But the thing is, as you can see, there is no defence around here. There's nothing. Basically all we were doing is putting pressure on with the cav over here, and they can't afford to disengage from it, and I managed to slink a unit of my heavy horse all the way around the traps. So they should have deployed the traps where there was no way to go around them, and that has not been done properly. And now there's all these missile units here that are of very limited use to them. So now at the same time I'm pushing pressure up with my infantry, and we're putting pressure on with our cavalry on this flank, taking in 3 different places just so we can, or 2 different major places, and then we can hopefully slip into the back here. Even if he thinks I'm going to go after these guys, maybe I'll hit the back of one of these phalanxes. He'll try to turn around, bam, with my infantry. So, they're playing defensively. The Egyptian players trying to attack here, but they don't really have the forces to do it, or at least the mobile forces to do it. So we are able to dictate what part of the fight is going to fight on. They think we were going to go straight into them. Just because they form up like this doesn't mean we have to fight them there. We can fight them over here, we can fight them wherever we want. And we're not going to let these traps dictate where we're going to fight. They do influence the fight to a certain extent, but it does not mean we're going to dictate it. So as you can see now, the Egyptian player is making a mistake. He is pushing his pikes forward, which is putting a big gap in their line. They should stay together where they can use their cohesion. Now there are gaps appearing in their line. He's gotten impatient. I'm going to ignore this. We're going to use our peltists to overwhelm them. What we're doing now is putting some pressure further over here. As you can see, there is some large, if you look at the tactical map now, they're actually encircled more or less, and that's going to our favour. As you can see, the Seleucid player has left all his missile units unguarded. He's trying to guard them. I'm going to be able to get them. Over here, we're just going to kite back, basically. Retreat. The Egyptian player's left a big gap in the line. There's plenty of areas to exploit. And now what's going to happen, the Egyptian player knows he has to look after his pikes, so they're going to get flanked. So now the Seleucid player is all out here on his own. And there's big gaps which we can slip into, and we can single out the Egyptian player without his Seleucid ally. That was the whole point of this. The cavalry just was there to kind of occupy them, and they thought, we were in a weak position by, slipping a cav out. But we've got enough forces here to single these units out. Look at this. Already this unit of pikes is down. These 2 units of pikes have lost significant numbers, and they're singled out and separated. The Swedish Larnsnecht does stay to hold them here. However, he probably should have stalled a little longer, because there is still quite a lot of Egyptian forces here, and his cavalry is quite a far distance away. As you can see, I am actually having a field day with my heavy horse here. I've already routed several units of his slings and archers and javelins there. If we have a look at this unit, it's already at 240 kills, and all these missile units are getting no value at all. And now there's a big, as we can see, here comes the exploitation of their gaps. I just put my guys in. The Swedish Larnsnecht is going to do the same. Just ignore the Seleucids and destroy the Egyptian. These elephants did get behind here, but it was a bit of a nuisance. But we've got our slings and stuff and javelins to support there, and now I'm able to get my Oathsworn behind him and my cavalry behind him. Now I think I might accidentally run over the traps, so I kind of forgot about those. But as you can see, he is very much outflanked here. However, he has done a pretty good piece of work over here with the Galatian Royal Guard just busting through, because that's what the Galatians can do, which is problematic. It could have been more useful if the cataphracts had come up. I don't know if the Swedish Larnsnecht decides to just single out the Parthian player, but I think at the time I was so focused on what I was doing that I didn't really tell him to just come after Egypt and just ignore the Seleucid player with his Parthians, because that's what would have been a better thing to do. I think if he does eventually do this, okay, he must have just thought maybe we'll get some attack, but honestly the Seleucid player is just completely behind the point. Now it's just completely single them out while they're isolated like this. And we can do this. We need to quickly be quick about though, because these Galatian Royal Guards are getting the high ground, which is not a good thing for us. I think I got my cavalry a bit snagged in fights for too long, which was not good. They got snagged up on a lot of these Galatians, which was not good. Now, this is because the Galatians are so powerful that the point of this fight is the Seleucid player is only now just getting over here, and so many of his missile units are gone, so he can't use them to help himself, and we can just completely swamp the Egyptian player. But just because Galatian Royal Guards are so strong and so capable, they will last a long time. But my Oath Sworn's pretty much the same. But as you can see, the Egyptian player is just getting swamped. So basically, all we did in this fight was kind of just position ourselves around them and sort of skirmish them, kind of make it, trying to separate them out, and the Egyptian player made the big mistake of separating from the Seleucid player, and the Seleucid player did not support him. So, you know, if they'd worked and attacked together, we still could have, you know, singled out their formation, but it would have been much harder. But because one of them went far ahead of the other, or, you know, the Egyptian player probably thought we're going to have to attack because they're getting positions on us, which, you know, isn't bad thinking. But what's happened is the Seleucid player has been way too slow to react. If we look at these guys, look, they're still in phalanx over here doing absolutely nothing, and the Egyptian player is getting just starting to fall to bits. The snake does charge uphill into these Galatian Royal Guards. He should have gone up high and come down. Over here, some of my skirmishers got caught out, unfortunately, by one of these regrouping light cav, which keep regrouping. It was rather irritating. But everywhere else, the Egyptian army is getting pretty creamed. And now these Royal Pelters have gone charged into my Oath Sworn. I got a downhill charge onto them. They've got Royal Pelters. They're a good infantry unit, but they're not Oath Sworn, and they're going to lose that. As you can see, the rest of these guys are starting to rout under these Eastern Cataphracts. Probably would have been better to have gone up high, though. It hit them from up top, would have routed them quicker. But there is still a potential danger. We need to rout as much of this as possible before the Seleucid player can get there, because he could still catch us without the ability to outflank him, which is bad. So here's a protractor melee that the Swedish Landsnick probably would have been better to avoid, because this is not what you want to do with your cataphracts, at least not against Galatian Royal Guard. It's too good a unit to be caught up like this. This light cav, again, was a very frustrating unit because it kept getting in the way of our missile units. Kind of couldn't get them, and we need to try and deal with those. Now, I'm going to disengage all my fights here because I do not want to be dealing with these silver shields on my own from the front. But I'm going to swamp his general and this other Royal Pelters, so I can get rid of those. The last Royal Pelters, they're a good unit, but they will not be able to defeat this kind of numbers. They won't be able to defeat Oath Sworn, and I can easily swamp them and destroy them. But it does last because it's general, which tends to be the case. As you can see, the cataphracts routed, unfortunately, just because Galatian Royal Guards got them snagged and destroyed them. And I was really concerned by this point, simply because the loss of those cataphracts could be nasty with Galatian Royal Guards still around. But fortunately for me, my Oath Sworn are still, very, very good. And one of them does regroup and does get a downhill charge, which was much more useful. If he'd managed to achieve this earlier on, he probably wouldn't have lost as many. Over here, I single this unit out, and we get some missiles onto the side. I did accidentally, I'm sure I run through the trap. I think I accidentally, I did. I accidentally run through the trap at one point there. I forgot about them because I'm not in the habit of seeing them there. So I finally managed to get his general to rout. I'm going to try and disengage though because there's pikes coming in. So over here, my Oath Sworn is getting pretty nailed, and this is the point I want to make with these Galatian Royal Guards. Not only have they fought their way all the way through the cataphracts, the hoplites, and now some of my Oath Sworn, they're phenomenal. Good thing I actually brought these Oath Sworn, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to defeat them, simply because they're so powerful. Both these units are a bit OP in reality. But anyway, I get a good downhill charge and an encirclement. That allows me to get rid of those Galatian Royal Guards, which really took far longer than I liked. Unfortunately, I could not get these guys to withdraw. They would not withdraw. There is a little bit of a nuisance problem with it. They would not withdraw on my orders, and that was really annoying. But I'm not too concerned. It was a cav, but I do manage to get my general out. I do manage to get this Oath Sworn out, and I still got, I think I've still got 3 more up here, and I still have enough cavalry left that I can go get rid of those missile units. If I don't get rid of these missile units, there's a good chance I'll lose. But we did manage to I do manage to catch them off guard here, so I'm going to get all his missile units again. And I mean, you know, there's all of our factions are very good. All these factions are very good, but I still consider the Seleucids and Egypt to be better than the two that we were using. But they relied on us just going straight into them, which is never a good thing to do, and was no way I was going to do it. And I know that Swedish Landsneakers wouldn't do it either. The only thing where we did wrong, I think, was probably that it was probably due to just a lack of communication. We're so busy focusing on what we're doing, I didn't really tell the Swedes to attack at the same time I was attacking the Egyptian, because we could have routed him sooner and lost less forces, or he wouldn't have lost his army. But it doesn't matter, because I've still got good enough. He's got 3 full units of Silver Shield Pikemen, but I'm not too concerned about that, to be honest. As long as I get positioning on them, I can outdo them. But I don't want to go head on, because my guys are pretty tired. They're still in fairly decent numbers, and I do have extra units, and he's just not protecting his missile units. This is one advantage he had, but I managed to get rid of him, so thank God I still had some cavalry left, or I would have been in some danger here, seriously here. But I lost a lot of my cav because I accidentally ran over the traps, and I tried to use them to support the Swedes fight, and that kind of cost them. So here I'm going to split my forces into 2 sides again, like I did in the previous fight, to get round the phalanx. Now there's no doubt he'll probably choose one side over the other, and I'm hoping he'll choose this side because the high ground will be more useful for a flank charge. So I got my cav behind his line. I'm trying to get rid of whatever missiles are, but he's done a pretty good thing here. I don't know if this is intentional or just by chance, but he fused his javelins into the back of his pikes here. But I still decided to charge because he's facing the wrong way. His pikes are not facing me, so it should be alright. And if he just turns them around like he's done here, I'm going to charge them. See, he's turned himself around here, so I'm going to kind of put my general down here just to try and occupy his angle, and I will now send my own Oathsworn into these reversed units of guys here. I'm kind of like just trying to make sure I've got all angles covered, so no matter what side he turns them to, one of them's going to get hit in the flank and pinned from 2 sides. So this unit, he turns both his men to face this unit, so this unit's going to take nasty losses, but is still a very high unit. But as a result, his flank has been turned, and now I've got a unit coming up from 2 sides, and that's going to be pretty darn nasty for his Silver Shield Pikemen. And over here, I've left my general in reserve and my cavalry to stop this one as well. So I got encirclements on every side. And once pikes are encircled, it's a big difference. And this unit lost a lot of men, but it held it up for a long time. You can expect that from Oathsworn. Tries to outflank me here, got my general, and he tries turning around, doesn't get his pikes down, so now I got no real concern for them getting the other side. So they'll be easily destroyed. So I got complete encirclement. I reserved my all my abilities to the end here as well, so I managed to get into a real frenzy and rally and all that going all at once, and it very quickly enables me to break these Silver Shield Pikemen, which I have complete encirclement of. So this fight turned out to gain me a lot of kills. I think I had was it this fight or was it another one? I think I had I had 2,000 kills in this fight. I had a phenomenal amount of kills because they've got all those Seleucid skirmishers and all their infantry, and a good number of the Egyptian units as well. The Sneaked had about 700, and then the Egyptian player had about 1,000, and the Seleucid player got very few, about 300. There you go. So in this fight, you know, defensive players, don't get me wrong, defensive players can be very nasty if they do it right, but at the same time, defensive players expect you to just charge them bull-headed, you know, just go around them, or just, you know, use positioning, and eventually you can concentrate all your forces on one point, and they make the mistake of breaking units off and getting themselves encircled by other reserve units, or in a 2 vs 2 like this, one of them gets impatient or gets concerned and worries and charges, and the other one's not fast enough support, so you can concentrate both armies on the one target. The only problem here is with us is I think Swedes got a bit caught up on the Seleucid player, but other than that, once he got over to our side, we quickly destroyed the Egyptian. The only thing that kept the Egyptian around so long was just that the Galatian Royal Guards are such a powerful unit. But other than that, this plan worked off pretty well, and it was very fun. So, costly victory, but to be honest, I felt we did pretty darn well, and I enjoyed it. So anyway guys, I certainly hope you enjoyed that one. I know I did. That was the second 2v2 I did with the Swedish Landsknecht, and again I shall link his channel in the description. Feel free to look at that. I'm sure he'd appreciate it. It's a good channel with good stuff, and he's definitely one of my favourite commentators. So anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you soon next time.